Time doesn't wait for us. The beat goes on. Yet, we're at our best when we take and make the time to prepare. Doors open and doors close. That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast, a unique program that is designed for those who serve in all levels of education. It's a joy for this work, but it's a lot of work. It's part of the journey that we're all on, where we find better ways to serve our families and to make progress in our own personal journey, while we have a significant impact on the journey of others. And boy, journeys that we have definitely been on a lot of journeys lately. We've had a chance to be a part of international work with educators, and got back from South Africa over the weekend, and now I've been in Denver and back in Florida, and then also headed out to Houston here shortly. So it's for a board retreat. So it's an exciting time to be a part of the journey with so many different types of schools and educators as they really want to find a way out of some of the patterns of mediocrity and achieving excellence. That journey of excellence it's really cool, but it's one that requires a lot of humility and discovery and courage. And so that's the privilege of our work, and we're glad that you're here and can be a part of just taking a moment to gain some perspective, to remember who you are, and to remember why you do what you do. And some of these messages are they're personal. And I mean that they're actually for me. I'm looking in the mirror, and this is particularly one of those because of what just observations and being on some of some in an intense period of life, a lot of things going on that require focus, that require an energy and an ability to solve problems and to help others while also trying to grow ourselves. And there's the thing we know about life is distractions abound. There's no shortage of things that are going to come at us and try to take us away from our purpose. The noise is incessant. It just continues, and it comes from all different directions, especially today. And we have to be extremely self-aware of understanding where those points of conflict and tension come in, and how do we quiet that noise and remember what our higher purpose is, to stay true to our north, right? And we're going to talk more about that today, because those attacks are endless. Sometimes they're attacks from people, sometimes they're attacks from ourselves, where internally we're negotiating and battling and trying to figure it out. But moving into battles is something to think about, because it's a construct that is useful as we think about us trying to achieve a victory. Right? And Sun Tzu, the author, wrote, "Victorious warriors win first, and then they go to war." Right? While defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. It's almost like some do a ready, aim, fire, and others do a ready, fire, aim. And I find myself sometimes struggling between those two, where I want to go, I want to push, send, I want to, step out and get going, and not having taken the time to prepare. And we've all experienced that. We've all experienced the hardship of failing to prepare by asking the right questions at the right time to prevent that self-inflicted pain and missed openings. And they vary in size and impact, right? Sometimes they're pretty significant situations, and sometimes they're just more annoying, or they can sometimes cause some discomfort, and they can be risky even. But like for example, with all of our travels, one of the things you have to remember is that the time to verify that the room key is in the pocket is before shutting the door, because so now because otherwise you're stuck, and then you have to go find another key, and if you can, and that just gets to be annoying, right? But then there's times to check that we have our passport. It's prior to arriving at the airport, because for us, we live a good distance from the airport, and so the time to know that you got your stuff is that you pack the right things, that you're prepared, is not after you're there. There's a certain window of opportunity, right? The time to look at the gas gauge is before getting on that long road or that long bridge that's desolate and it has no options. There's no exits. There's no way off. It's like the Pennsylvania Turnpike, or if you go to the bridge down to Key West, or there's certain places where you don't want to take that chance because there is no escape route. You're toast. So, preparation is a decision. Preparation is a decision made in the present to prevent regret in the future. We get to make choices. And it's important as we move into a lot of our educators today here in the summer of 2026. They're either in between seasons, they're kind of midway. A lot of our schools around the world they're in more of a January to December calendar schedule. Others start, this is their time off. They've got the summer time to be able to now recuperate and rethink and reprogram and rehire, and a lot of stuff going on. And so either way, there are chances to, hey, let's step back from this, right? Let's think about this. Let's think about especially our routines, because one of the things that we have landed on, it's not like new wisdom, but it is wisdom that's useful, is planning ahead, thinking through things, developing a routine matters. Excellence is the result of habits rather than goals, right? So the secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. It's a great line from Mike Murdoch, right? The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. Anticipation, it clues our imagination to thoughtfully consider various scenarios, assess the risks and opportunities, and then prepare to make the wisest decisions. Some people are really good at that. Tammy is amazing at that, my wife, where she knows how to consider all the options and think them through. Now, sometimes it's hard to turn that off because there's just a constant, going through the scenarios, and, there's a fine line between anticipation and worry, right? Because worry, while anticipation clues our imagination, worry abuses our imagination, right? It's allowing fear and anxiety to consume our spirit as we relentlessly cycle through all that could go wrong and the resulting pain, right? There's a fine line between anticipation and worry. We need that anticipation. We need to be thinking through. We need to have the habits, but instead, rather than just cycling through, it's also grounding ourselves, right? Because we're going to have open doors, but open doors, they close eventually. They close behind us, and sometimes we don't have the key. Sometimes we're not on the right floor of riding the elevator. Sometimes we're not in the right position. And our habits of purpose, right? Our habits of purpose, remembering who we are, why we do what we do, how we're called to this, right? Our habits of purpose, of preparation, of preparing our hearts and our minds and our plans, and then of prayer, right? Of reorienting ourselves with our Creator. Those habits elevate the discernment and decisiveness that is essential to choosing the best path. What doors to take, what doors to let close, right? That's life. And so part of what we want to remember is those routines, those daily routines are really the game changer. They're the ones that determine whether we're wrapped up in worry and stressed out and burned out and are having to deal with a lot of anxiety, or whether we have that peace, right? And the Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent They lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And that's as I said earlier, part of this is for me. It's to remember, hey, slow down, stop, prepare for the day. Don't just firing into it is a mistake because it raises those risks of getting to a point where the door closes and there's no options left, right? There's no chance to go and make the better decision. Plans of the diligent lead to profit. So beginning each morning with a plan, it orients our internal compass, right? We all have that compass that's giving us where are we going? Because we're all on a journey, and very often the journey that we're on, it doesn't have roads, it doesn't have a path necessarily that's already that we're following other people when they've been here before. Today, you're as old as you've ever been. You're going through things that maybe you've never even seen before. We all do. That's life, right? But beginning each morning with a plan, it orients our internal purpose so that we remain steady against the endless noise that seeks to distract and disorient. We stay on purpose. We stay on mission. We stay on path, right? We don't get lost. We don't get disoriented because the power of the needle in our compass isn't the size. It's not how big it is, but rather the orientation. It's staying true, staying on our path. And that requires reconnecting. It requires checking our magnets, right? Because we can get pulled away. There's a lot of competing forces that come into our life, and that polarization will draw us away. And that's why it's so rare for those that are able to stay on purpose, especially in education, because there just seems to be a battle. There's a battle for our hearts and our minds, and because we have a power. Educators have a very distinct power, and that magnet, it's small. It's actually very lightweight. If you hold a compass, you don't feel it, but it's there, and it's balanced. It's balanced on a pivot, right, that minimizes friction. And that's the key. We're trying to minimize the friction. We're trying to make sure that we stay true to who we are and who we want to be and where we're going. Right? Planning for victory increases the probability of realizing it. Planning for it gets us where we want to go more likely. It's not about luck then. It's about being ready for when luck happens, because we create our own luck many times, right? Because we're ready to choose wisely before the door closes, grounded in divine peace, given in faith. There's some peace that you don't get to just claim. You don't get to pursue. There's a peace that only can be given, right? So prepare yourself. Prepare yourself for victory this week, for that success, my friend, with a daily routine that orients your heart and mind on purpose. You get a chance. You're gonna have those doors where you get to step up, you get to step in, you get to step forward, or you get to step out. But knowing the right doors, choosing wisely, that's the joy of the journey. And so encourage you in that. Thank you again for the work that you do, for your contribution to the lives of so many other people. Take it seriously by being prepared, practicing those daily routines. Hey, a coaching question to ask yourself at the end of each day. Did I do my best to be ready today? Did I do my best to be ready today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.